Hey there, today I wanted to share 5 useful productivity tips when working from home. And before we get stuck in, the first obvious one, which is kind of like a bonus one, is, well, you don't have to wear a suit to go to work, but that's not one of the 5, that's just an added bonus. But anyway, let's get started. So the first one is using conference calls to your advantage. So conference calls, in my opinion, are way more productive than the meetings are if it's just like a recurring sort of catch-up, follow-up type of call, because it actually means that you can do other things during the time that you're not actively required to participate. So most meetings in most companies, they get scheduled for an hour, and the reality is most people don't need to be in those meetings for the whole duration, and that's just an unproductive use of people's time. Whereas on conference calls, if you're not actively participating in a particular agenda item, then you can do laundry, or you can even just clear out your inbox while you're listening to the call. As long as you're on the meeting and can hop back on and take yourself off mute and contribute when you need to, that's one way where you can win some time back. Number 2 is, if you normally have a commute to the office and you're kind of wondering what to do with that time that you no longer have to do that, then for the love of God, don't just use it to spend an extra hour in bed. Well, I know it's tempting, and yes, I've done that on occasion before as well. But the real advantage that you win back from not having to commute is that it just frees up time and headspace to do something else. Maybe on your commute, you listen to a podcast. Well, you can still do that. Listen to maybe the Procurement podcast, which is my new podcast, which has just come out. If you don't listen to podcasts, maybe you could meditate. I know this sounds a little bit hippie, but it really does work. I do it, not as often as I should, but I do it. It's a great way to start a morning and have some sort of morning routine. Likewise, at the end of the day as well, it's a nice way to sort of wind down. Or maybe just read something relevant to your job, or do some sort of learning and development activity that you wouldn't normally have the chance to do, perhaps a language, or if there's a specific aspect of your job role that you want to learn more about. Third one is to work in efficient bursts. And there's a principle called the Pomodoro technique, or the Pomodoro principle, that recommends working in shorter bursts, and that enables you to be more productive. Now, there are arguments around what is the optimal sort of burst of time to work within, and it kind of depends on your job as well as sort of your mindset and how your brain ticks. I generally find working in about 45-minute bursts works pretty well for me to be able to concentrate on a task for long enough to make a meaningful indent into what I need to do, while at the same time, not taking up too much capacity and frazzling my brain, and giving myself a chance to take a bit of a short break at the end of it. So try and figure out what works for you, and set maybe the timer on your phone so as at the end of each sort of short burst of activity, you can take a couple of minutes break, make yourself a coffee, go and have a walk, do whatever you need to do just to take time away from your desk to be able to then come back and get stuck straight back in again. Number 4 is, before the end of the day, before you log off, before you shut down your computer, write down 3 things that you want to accomplish the next day. So as when you get in, or when you start work the next day and turn on your laptop, you're not sort of scratching your head thinking, what am I going to do today? Because if you do that, what's the default? You just go into your inbox, and then you get stuck with busy work that is someone else's agenda. Whereas if you've made a note of 3 things the prior evening that you want to achieve the next day, it helps to set your agenda without it being taken over by email or by somebody else's problems. And then finally, the 5th one, and this is one that I was in self-denial for a while, and that is, learn what time of day is best for you when you do the most productive work. And once you know what time of day you are the most productive, that allows you then to block off your calendar as best you can, so as you're not distracted by other things. And I always used to hear a lot of people saying, you know, first thing in the morning is when you should do your sort of deep work. And while that may be true for a lot of people, it's definitely not for me. I actually find that so around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon through to when I finish for the day, which is usually around 6:30, is when I'm typically my most productive. And like I say, I denied that for a long time, and it took me a while to figure it out. So maybe just make a bit of a journal for yourself of when you feel you're at your most productive, or when you feel you're able to do the best deep work. And when you know when that is, try to schedule meetings that are not during that time. Now, obviously, if your boss wants to have a call with you during that time, it's difficult not to. But if you can avoid taking meetings or answering emails or phone calls during that time, then it's a great place to block off your calendar to try and avoid disruptions. And you'll notice that you get a lot more done. I hope that was helpful. Please share or comment if you thought it was useful, or if you've got more. And yeah, I will chat to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.